Yeah,
I
I
was
know.
feeling like a pig.
Yeah. Yep. So now you're going to come out of your stone and come back into yourself. Right. Yeah.
I'm okay, E-boy.
Yeah, time for belly rub.
Now I want you to imagine that you're walking down a spiral staircase. And imagine that within you is a spiral staircase, winding deep down into your center. And starting at the top, walk very slowly down the staircase, going deeper and deeper within yourself. And notice the sensations. Rest by sitting on a step, or perhaps turn on the lights on the way down if you wish. Don't force yourself further than you want to go. Just notice the quiet. As you reach the center of yourself, settle your attention there. Perhaps
Okay.
Might have to do an exercise where you lay on the floor, put your feet up straight up in the air by the doorway or up on the bed. You have a hard time getting up, right? You lay on the floor, how easy is it for you to get up? Is it pretty easy?
I don't know.
You gotta try it. That's how you're gonna stay healthy. You can't shy away from it until you can't do it. Better off now when you can do it and keep doing it for the rest of your life. Otherwise you'll fall down and can't get up. Honey, I'm falling, I can't get up. You have to get that first alert system. Like the elderly do when they're 80, 90. Like I might need in the next 10 years. So, I'm just telling you this stuff. Education is the most important thing you can do to yourself, which you are doing now by going to school. Yes, you are educating yourself. But listen to your dad, you'll get educated on what's coming up. What's coming up is the recession.
She's a strong kid. She's gonna be okay.
Oh, I should do that too. Go to the library and let them know, or I could call them.
Yeah, you can call them.
Say no, Chauncey. I don't want you to ever.
I need to finish watching House and Parenthood. And they're due back on the 25th, and I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
Tired of feeling sluggish and unwell? Introducing Resilia Oil of Oregano Soft Gels. Just 2 soft gels for daily support. Start feeling lighter. Get back your energy and clarity. Feel more balanced every day. Feel the change with Resilia. Resilia. Stronger immunity every day.
How could you forget all that? Because I was 5?
Yeah.
Because I just lost my mother to cancer. Now this thing took Alice because I abandoned him.
So how did you get back here from that place? How do we get Alice back?
I think my list is the key.
I can only read half of it. They're so faded.
They're the same.
We're seriously doing a kid's scavenger hunt to open a doorway to a magical spirit world. My sister is missing.
It's not about the actual items. It's a benediction. It's about how far you're willing to go to prove your devotion.
A paintbrush, something that burns. There was more to Alice's list. Backside, it was something that makes you mad, makes you cry.
Nancy knew exactly why the child was there. She did not contact the police, JC's family, or Philip's parole officer. Instead, she helped enforce the rules and preserve the secrecy of the property. When Philip was temporarily returned to custody in 1993 after failing a drug test, Nancy continued holding JC alone. Philip's absence could have been an opportunity to end the crime. Nancy chose to continue it. JC spent most of her first 3 years in virtual isolation. The structures behind the house changed over time, but the early living conditions remained basic. She was kept in locked rooms and makeshift shelters. The hidden section of the property eventually included tents, sheds, a toilet, and a recording space Philip used for music and religious material. Electricity reached the area through wires and extension cords running from the main house. Fences, trees, and tarps made the second backyard difficult to see from the street. JC was not allowed to attend school. She did not receive regular medical or dental care. Television, when Philip permitted her to watch it, became one of her few connections with the world beyond the property. In 1994, when JC was 13, Philip and Nancy were arrested on August 26, 2009. JC had been missing for more than 18 years. An FBI agent contacted JC's mother, Terry Probin. For years, Terry had received false sightings, unreliable tips and calls from people claiming to know what had happened to her daughter. This time, investigators told her they believed JC had been found alive. JC was then able to speak with her mother. On August 27th, she was reunited privately with Terry and with her younger sister, Shayna, who had been a baby when JC disappeared. JC's daughters remained with her. That detail mattered. During the first questioning, one of her greatest fears had been that telling the truth would separate them. Instead, the three left the Garridos' control together. The end of the captivity was sometimes described as a rescue, but it did not happen during a police raid. Officers did not break into the backyard and lead JC out of a locked shed. She entered the parole office using a false name, and initially protected the story she had been forced to live inside. Her identity emerged only because the questioning continued after the first explanation stopped making sense. After the arrests, investigators returned to the Garrido property on June 10, 1991. She disappeared within seconds. On August 26, 2009, she was finally able to say her own name again.
In this house of cards,
caused other fatal internal injuries. And that's what you'll search for next. Dr. G opens Victor's torso with the standard Y incision.
I look in the chest, I look in the abdomen, but I don't see any trauma. I don't see any broken ribs. I don't see anything major as far as trauma is concerned in his chest or abdomen.
Incredible as it seems, 76-year-old Victor fell from a train going 80 miles per hour. Sustained no significant internal injury. Whatever killed Victor West, it wasn't his fall from the train.
Okay, but I gotta clean my hands.
With this shocking discovery, all she can do now is push on with the internal exam, removing and dissecting each vital organ in turn, hoping for a clue. And it's not long before she finds one.
Oh my gosh, that.
Significant bacterial infection in his lungs.
It's very common to get pneumonias and infections in your lung when you're on a respirator.
Patients on ventilators are at high risk for bronchial or lung infections because the breathing tube bypasses the normal defenses of the respiratory tract and can even harbor bacteria. Up to 25% of patients placed on a ventilator for more than 2 days develop ventilator-associated pneumonia. Up to 50% of them die as a result. After his fall from the train, Victor was on a ventilator for nearly 2 weeks.
When you put the breathing tube down into your lung, you can get colonized with a lot of different bacteria.
Dr. G believes this infection wasn't just severe. She believes believes it's what ultimately kills the two dogs.
I can clearly see that he just cannot exchange oxygen anymore from the air, from the respirator.
For our national anthem, performed by the Joanne Women, who has been a special part of our opening ceremony for the past several years. We are grateful to have her back with us again.
Dr. G, medical examiner, continues. Dr. G removes Jessie Davis's calvarium, or the top of her skull, looking for signs of a stroke or other disease. 3 days ago, while eating dinner, the 26-year-old suffered a seizure and never regained consciousness.
Has a sudden arrest, unknown etiology, unknown cause.
With no diagnosis, her death is shrouded in mystery, and Dr. G has little information with which to solve it.
We have no real history that she's got a family history. She'd been in foster care, and I'm not so sure how much she knew about her family.
Jessie's husband fears that drug addiction, which she tried so hard to conquer, is to blame. Now, it's in Dr. G's hands to determine the true cause of death and bring a measure of peace to her grieving husband.
She's pushing out, but the door only goes so far. Once a kidnapped victim is told that I will kill your family members if you try to do anything, they now become the guardian angel to save that from happening to their family members.
You just have to kind of commit to it a little bit.
Knows more than most what the girls would have been going through. She was kidnapped in Long Island back in 1992 and held captive there in a concrete underground cell for 17 days. She was only 10 years old. And what did he do to you during that time?
There were times during the 17 days that he treated me very, very well. There were times that he would sexually assault and rape me. It really would depend upon
the rest of his life. In jail.
This teacher in jail is total isolation for the rest of his life. He is a high demand person that any inmate would love to have an education, but can't. And if he gets any of these specific types of inmates, he will not survive.
Hello, I'm Charles Wood. Thanks for watching. Keep up with the latest 360 Minutes. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.
News report gave details of a quite unbelievable story. For 24 years, in a cellar beneath. In that time, he'd used her as a sex slave and fathered 7 children. I have come to discover why Joseph Fritzl carried out his terrible crimes.
From leaving 40 East Street on the 28th of August 1984,
Joseph Fritzl lured 18-year-old Elizabeth into the cellar of the house, drugging and handcuffing her before incarcerating his own daughter.
He has some rumors about carrying a door down to the garage. And then once the door is in the garage, he says to Elizabeth, "Oh, come into my study. I want to talk about something with you." She goes into his study, and whilst the back is turned to him, we now know that he used a chloroformed infused rag to cover her face to knock her out. He's then going to carry Elizabeth's body into this hidden space that, as far as the authorities are concerned, doesn't exist. And that hidden space contains simply a bed, a video, and he chains Elizabeth within that space.
Fritzl forced his daughter to write a letter saying she'd run away and joined a cult. She then drove
Is saying to her father that there's something wrong with the baby and he has to take action. And the action that he takes is that he puts Lisa on their doorstep of 40 Eaststrasse with a note which again Elizabeth has been forced to write, saying this is her daughter, would her parents please look after the little girl. The little girl is found on the doorstep and brought into the household.
Baby Lisa had emergency surgery to correct the heart defect and began life with her grandparents, Rosemary and Joseph. Downstairs, the children had grown considerably, and the cellar was becoming cramped. Fritzl started converting more space for Elizabeth, Kirsten, and Stefan.
Fritzl is beginning to try to normalize this downstairs life. So he's moving in refrigerators, he's moving in things that the children downstairs might want to play with. There's a television there, so they're aware of what the outside world is like. They have pets, there's a goldfish, there's a canary. But Fritzl is responsible.
To free Elizabeth and relate. But in the middle of March that year, 19-year-old became seriously ill.
The only medication at their disposal was aspirin, so she had to obviously didn't help. And Elizabeth was cast into the hospital. And it was probably the first time in those 24 years that she really put her foot down. She was adamant that she would just not go on if he were to allow Kerstin to die, which was probably what would have happened.
Recently, Charlotte
Drew it.
At Dream Cloud, we produce better dreams. So let's help Charlotte out.
The waterside planet.
Dream better dreams on Dream Cloud.
Animal days are back.
I've worked in. And you know, my final thoughts would be these, Fred. This isn't New York, this isn't London, this isn't some kind of anonymous environment. It's Sleepy and Stettin. And therefore, the thing to take away is that the most dreadful of crimes can happen in the most ordinary of places.
For me, the case of Josef Fritzl is one of the most shocking ever. The worst word cruelty doesn't begin to describe the torture handed out to Elizabeth and her young family by their father. How any father could commit such a crime is beyond me. Justice, of course, has been served. Joseph will die in prison, but for Elizabeth and her children, the scars will last a lifetime.
Splat. Green. Super duper.
For today's woman who somehow gets it all done. Let us inspire.
Large search began right away. Officers were trying to find Derek and the child before the situation turned into another tragedy. Derek's face was soon all over the news. The search continued through the night and into the early hours of the next morning. At around 5 in the morning, a motel employee called police and said the man they were looking for had checked into a room with a small child. Officers rushed to the motel immediately. They arrived at the place because Derek was suspected of taking Macy's life and leaving with the child. Police also knew he had access to weapons. What they did not know was whether Gabriel was still safe. But in the end, the situation at the motel unfolded more simply than anyone expected. As officers prepared to enter the room, Derek came out with his hands raised. He had heard movement in the hallway, realized there was no way out, and surrendered without saying a word. After officers placed him in handcuffs, they entered the room and found 2-year-old Gabriel alive and unharmed. Thankfully, nothing had happened to the little boy. Derek was taken in for questioning right away. But before the interview began, he was allowed to make a phone call. The young man called his mother, Shelley, and told her he was sorry that...
Okay, let's go find my mom.
You stuck. Just open the door. You got it locked. Now look how he has it. It is only enough to reach his hand out to grab the mail and, close the door. And naturally gonna pry it open. That didn't work. So we had to kick open the bottom. Luckily on that door was aluminum. It was cheap. It was with her daughter. She went to my house, called 911.
That's right. He said Amanda escaped. A report that brings back chilling memories of Jake.
Astonishing.
For these officers that have been working in these cases for all these years, it was just amazing to see the emotion on these law enforcement officers when they went in there and saw Amanda.
Currently, they're safe. We're in the process of evaluating their medical needs. This is really good because this isn't the ending.
With your help, our goal is to shine a light on cases that are not getting much attention. Dig for answers together and offer support for the family and the friends of the missing. This week's featured case is one that captured the nation and the world's attention. A case so heinous and horrific, it is so hard to believe it actually Amanda Berry and Gina De Jesus were just 20 years old when they they were abducted and held prisoner in a home dubbed Cleveland's House of Horrors. With the home the wound began to heal. In this week's Missing series, we're taking a look at what has happened in the passing of years and the contributions these women are still making to make their communities better.
We're the only ones that have a bricks and mortar building in the country where families can actually come to it and sit and be with one another.
Two of the women working to save other missing children and adults.
B5. Bingo! O71. I-29. Round over. Bingo! I-25. I-17. Round over.
The Lost Prince was becoming, in the eyes of the people around him, something much more ordinary and much more difficult. A troubled young man who told stories. And then, in December, the story ended the way the tombstone would remember it. On the 9th of December 1833, Caspar had a serious argument with his guardian Maya. 5 days later, on the 14th of December, he staggered home with a deep stab wound in his chest. He gasped out that a stranger had met him in the Ansbach Court garden, the Hofgarten, in the snow, had handed him a purse and had stabbed him. He begged them to go and look. They went. And in the snow of the court garden, they found a small violet purse. Inside was a note. And the note was written in mirror writing, reversed, so you'd need a mirror to read it easily. And it hinted at who the killer was, giving a set of initials. But when they studied the note, the same cold pattern appeared that had appeared with the very first letters 5 years before. The spelling and the grammar had the same errors that ran through Caspar's own writing, and the paper had been folded into a distinctive triangular shape, the exact way Caspar folded his own letters. Caspar Hauser